Hi guys, I am making a video that I wanted to make for a long time and I haven't been able to, but I want to make it now because it is basically the 3-year anniversary that my dad has been in heaven, and I just want to make this for anybody that has lost a loved one, how to handle grieving. I know everybody grieves differently, so it's not a recipe to fix that, but if you've gone through this, I hope hearing my story and what I've gone through, you feel like you have a friend that's gone through this too and can understand, and maybe some of the things I dealt with and did will help you also. So I'll just get started telling you the story that I tried to tell years ago, but I pretty much ended up crying every time I would start talking. So hopefully I won't cry today. 3 years ago, my dad was going to pick me up from the airport that day, and I had texted him the time, and I said, "Dad, can you pick me up at this time?" And he said, "Of course." And I was in a really big hurry, and I knew he was in too. So I knew, I was like, oh, I should write "I love you" back to my dad, and I didn't. And I still wish I would have, because that was the very last time I ever sent a text to my dad or got a text from him. And in some way, a little girl always wants to feel that she's beautiful, and that was probably the first person that told her she's beautiful was her dad. And so even that day, I remember putting my makeup on, and I was like, oh, maybe Dad will say I look beautiful or something, just in my little, still feeling like a little girl heart. So I was on the way to the airport. My mom and the kids were in the car. We were about 20 minutes away from the airport, and my cell phone rang from a number I didn't recognize. So I never usually answer those, but I just did. And it was a really weird way for somebody to answer the phone. And I remember it was like so much of a question. It was like, "Oh, Kandee, where are you? Are you sitting down?" And I was like, this is a really weird way to call somebody. And they were like, "Are you standing up? Where are you? Are the kids with you? Is your mom with you?" And I was like, yeah, I'm sitting down in the car. I'm on the way to the airport. I still didn't know who it was. And then the voice on the other end of the phone just started saying, "Your dad's gone to be with the angels. Your dad's gone to be with the angels." And I remember at that time, it felt like it took forever because I was hearing what she said, and my brain was like trying to process, what did she just say? My dad has gone to be with the angels. This means he's not on earth anymore, and he's not alive. And I remember it just felt like my whole body got icy. Like it just felt like all the blood drained from my body, and I felt tingly and icy and cold, and like I wanted to throw up. And I remember I just felt like I wanted to jump through the windshield so bad and fly up to the sky and not be on earth and deal with what she was saying. My poor mom was sitting next to me, had no idea what's going on. She's like, "What is it? What is it?" And I remember I asked what happened. I was like, "I don't understand what's going on." And I remember they said, "I'm going to have to call you back," which is the worst thing to ever tell somebody after you just told them that their loved one is not alive, to say, "I'm going to have to call you back." So it just felt like agonizing. And I remember we pulled over to this gas station, and I just got out, and I remember I just started crying, and I was at this gas station waiting to hear what happened. So when she called me back, my dad was like a big, strong, muscly guy. He worked out every day. He rode Harleys. He was big and tough, and I never thought anything could hurt him. He was the kind of guy that would like come in with blood running down his arm. He'd be like, "Oh, just got a little scratch. I'm okay." I just never thought anything would hurt him, and I always felt like I was safe in the world because I had my dad. No matter what went wrong, I knew my dad was there that I could still feel safe with, and he would make everything feel okay. Okay. I'm not gonna cry. So, I remember when she told me what happened, she said he had gone to a friend's house and he had gone to help her take these curtain rods down, and they're not sure what happened because nobody was in the room, and he was on a ladder. That's what we do know. We don't know if he slipped off or what, but he was over a glass table, over a window, and they found the drill was on the other side, outside the window, and they think his arm must have gone through or something and cut the artery on his armpit. And I remember I asked so many questions about what happened, and I remember they said he had come out and blood was everywhere, and I don't think he could stand up very well, and I remember the police officer just said there was blood smeared along the walls, looking like he had tried to walk down the hallway. And they said a care flight had been called. He had started to lose too much blood there on site, and the police officer said he thinks he probably died there from just the blood loss. He said he had never seen so much blood on a scene ever. And I remember we had to go tell my sister. We had to drive back to her house in Santa Barbara, so for like an hour and a half, being so upset. And I remember I walked in to give her a hug, and she was so excited. She thought we had just turned around to stay at her house another night. And I remember she hugged me, and she was just like, what's wrong? It feels like your heart is going to beat out of your chest. And just that whole night felt, I've never cried so much. Cried to the point that my head hurt with this excruciating pain I've never felt before in my life. And then dealing with people calling, you know, and my dad was alive that morning, and then to refer to him in past tense just hours after he should have been picking me up from the airport, you know. And I remember my dad had dropped me off at the airport to go to LA, and I remember I forgot my wallet. I'm always forgetting things. And I remember I forgot my wallet or something, and he drove away, and I waited for him to come back, and he came back, and I remember he threw Ellie up in the air, and hearing him laugh and hugging him and him telling me that he loved me. And I had no idea that would be the last time I would see him. I really didn't sleep at all. I remember the funny thing was we were staying at my sister's house, and that night I was crying. I just basically cried myself to sleep. And in the middle of the night, Ellie had like swung an arm or leg and kicked me in the eye or the face. And I remember it hurt, but I'd been crying so much, my whole head hurt. So in the morning I woke up still crying, a huge black eye. My sister was like, you look so horrible. Like, I feel horrible. I couldn't eat. I had no desire to eat at all for days. I just felt like I didn't want to go on anymore. I didn't want to go on without my dad. I didn't want to accept that this was going to be my new reality, is not having my dad. But I remember when we got home, I had to go to the coroner's office and pick up his things. And I remember she brought me out a little bag, and it was a bag with his bracelet and his wallet and things in it, and his cell phone was still with him. I couldn't go get that. That was at the hospital for some reason. And I remember I wanted to know where his body was. And they were like, it's at the hospital. And part of me just wanted to run there, and I just wanted to hold his hand. And I remember she gave me the Ziploc bag, and I was like, oh, he has a copper bracelet. And I just immediately took it out, and I put the bracelet on. And as I looked closely, it was not copper. It was a silver bracelet, but his blood was all over it. And I remember I kept the bracelet because I didn't want to touch it. I felt like a part of him was with it because the blood was on there, you know. And I was like, it sounds creepy, but in a way I was like, that's his blood, you know. And I remember my mom told me at one point, she's like, you know, honey, your dad always loved clean things and taking care of things, and he would want you to clean that off and have like a pretty silver bracelet to wear. So I did clean it off. And I remember the next day, I didn't want my mom and sister to have to deal with anything. So before they had flew here, I went and I had to pack up all my dad's stuff. So I remember just being alone in there, just packing up all his things. And when I first landed after I got the bracelet, I just went to his house, and I just remember walking by his tool bench, and I just wanted to touch all of his tools because I know he had touched them. And I remember I went into his room, and it smelled like him. And I just laid on his bed, and if I just breathed in, I could just smell him and pretend he was still there. And I remember my mom and sister, they're like, we were praying for you to give you strength to pack up all his things. And I did. In a matter of hours, I felt like it was a miracle. I had just packed up all of his stuff, clothes, shoes, all of his tools. I had help, of course, with the tools and heavy things. But I just packed up all his things and then brought him to my house. And his clothes are still in my closet to this day. And sometimes I just go in there and I just smell his shirts. And I just pretend like the same smell when I gave him a hug, you know. And I put some things, I think I put some things in a Ziploc bag, or I did at one time. It's because I didn't want the smell to ever go away. And after that, it was very hard, because then you have to plan the memorial service and all these things so quickly that you're like, I need time. I need some months before I can think about this stuff. Just handling all the final details of everything was so difficult. And so I didn't want to do YouTube. I didn't care about anything anymore. Like after that, I didn't even want to wake up. Like in the mornings, I remember when I would wake up, I would be just so like, oh my gosh, I don't want to wake up. I want to go back to sleep. I don't want to feel this. I don't want to feel anything. Just please, I just wanted to go back to sleep. And I remember I would just cry so much. And one of the days when I didn't cry so much, I remember my little Blakey came up and he's like, I'm so proud of you, Mommy. You didn't cry so much today. And I would go on runs a lot, and I didn't want them to see me cry. So I would go in the shower, and I would cry and cry and cry and cry. I would go on runs, and I would just run for, 2 hours. It was just tears streaming down my face so nobody saw. And I remember one day I was running on this dirt road, and I remember I looked down and I saw a spark plug. And it was like I could feel my dad saying from heaven, like a spark plug sparks and gives the power to the energy in the motor. I will be a spark plug to your heart and your life, always. And as much as I would get paralyzed by those thoughts of thinking I can never call my dad again, I can never talk to him again, he's not going to be, a part of the kid's life in the future, how are they going to know about him, to even unresolved things. I just wanted to tell my dad I'm sorry for those things, I know somebody had told me that you can get a chair and pretend that the person is there, and whatever unresolved issues, whether it's anger or sadness or things you want to ask forgiveness of, you can talk to them like as if they're in the chair, and it will feel better. And if you have any of those unresolved things for that person or anything, maybe try that, see if that helps you, if that works. I know everybody handles grief differently. Some people get really angry. It brings up all the issues of that person, how that person hurt them. For me, it just was great loss. I was just going to miss my dad so incredibly much. So if you have that anger, maybe try the chair method and see if that helps, just getting out everything you've ever felt that you weren't able to tell them, get all of that out. Or whether there were things like I wanted to tell my dad I'm sorry for, I could just say I'm sorry for all of those things. Because I know when my dad's at in heaven, he's not thinking about these things or being upset or that I even need to ask for forgiveness or, all those things. They don't exist. He's not thinking about those things anymore. And a lot of people ask, how did I deal with them? I'm not trying to get religious on anybody. I'm just telling you personally how I dealt with things at this moment. So I'm a Christian, non-denominational Christian. I know I accepted Jesus in my heart, and by doing that, I know that he has made a place for me in heaven to be there. And I know that my dad accepted the Lord into his heart, asked him to forgive him for his sins, and that he would be in heaven too. And I know my dad is there, and that is the only comfort that helped me, that I will see my dad again. And I know a lot of people say you can pick a song that helps them, and this has been hard because I will even be like, I've been at a carnival or like a fun barbecue event, and a song came on that reminded me of my dad, like a Creedence Clearwater song or something like that. And there I was at this happy event just crying my eyes out just because I missed my dad. Nobody knows what's going on except me, just crying away. And I know that day it felt like some of the lights went out in my life. And sometimes those people are so precious to you that my world got a little more dim. And it's never going to come back. And that's totally okay. It's never going to be how it was with my dad here, because he will not be here at holidays. Every time his birthday rolls around, every time Father's Day rolls around, and I see people buying Father's Day things, or I get emails like, oh, don't forget your dad. And, oh, I'm not forgetting him. That is definitely not anything I'm forgetting. It just makes it hard on your heart. But I think I'm going to celebrate my dad in this day. On Father's Day, I'm going to celebrate that he was the best dad I could have. He may not be on earth to celebrate with me, but I'm celebrating him. And on his birthday, I'm celebrating that this is the day he came into the world and was alive. And I'm so excited that he was alive and got to be my dad. So turn those moments of sadness into moments of celebration. So for me, for my personal grieving process, I remember I was driving home with a car full of, driving my dad's car, full of all of his belongings to my house. And I remember the song came on the radio, and it was by Building 429, This Is Not Where I Belong. I remember the sunroof was open, the windows were down, and I just hear the lyrics of the song saying, I know that I'm not home yet because this is not where I belong. Take this world and give me Jesus. This is not where I belong. Knowing that this world is full of trouble and heartache and hurt and frustration and sadness, and this is not where we were designed to be. That our home is in heaven, where everything is perfect. There is no more pain or hurt or sadness. There's just love and wonderful things and all the people that we love. And my dad is a precious deposit in heaven for me. And I think about how one of my greatest fears was eternity and the idea of living forever and there never being an end. This has terrified me since I was a little kid. Terrified me to the point of anxiety attacks. Like hyperventilating, like real bad. And so I felt like when my dad died, it's like he always went ahead to make things safe. And he went ahead and made things safe in this moment because he went ahead to say, I'm here. You don't need to be afraid anymore. So for me, my comfort was so much in knowing that I will see my dad again. And that he's in heaven waiting for me. And that was my greatest strength, and it made the problems and troubles of this world seem so small. And my dad always encouraged me, where he said, don't say that you have problems, say that you have challenges, because you can overcome challenges. And he would encourage me so much on a daily basis. I was like, what am I going to do without him, you know? And I felt like I have my dad, he's my deposit in heaven, and I have God as my heavenly Father on earth to give me strength now. And I remember I would just go running, and on beautiful days, some days at the end of the days when I just see a beautiful sunset, I just think, this is just God's gift saying, look at this beautiful end to today. No matter how difficult or hard or troublesome your day was, I'm giving you this beautiful gift of seeing this colorful sunset at the end of the day. And time does make things better. I remember right after it happened, people were like, oh, time heals everything, you'll be fine, it just takes time. And part of me would get really upset, and I'd be like, unless you're going to give me 10 years in a box, don't tell me that, because right now I can barely make it through this second in this minute, feeling this pain. Time does lessen that shocking pain, you know, that first initial pain where I felt like throwing up and shaking and like I was icy and had no circulation in my system, of hearing the news about my dad. And just every day just feeling like I couldn't handle it. I just wanted to fly up to the sky and not be on this earth. That part, I don't feel that every day. I think about my dad every single day. There's not one day that I do not think about him. Every time something good happens, I think about, I wish I could tell my dad about this. Anytime even something bad happens, I'm like, I wish my dad could encourage me about this. You know, holidays, you learn to celebrate them. Instead of thinking that first Christmas, my dad's birthday is right before Christmas, and I was like, I don't even want to decorate. I don't even care. And I have like 5 Christmas trees I normally love putting up. I don't want to put them up. And I said, no, I am going to make this Christmas the best, biggest Christmas ever. My dad would want me to make this the most festive, awesome looking Christmas. So in honor of him, I'm going to make this even bigger and more awesome than I normally would. And you need to do that, or your life will be more awful without them. You don't want to make it more worse than it is. So instead, celebrate those things, celebrate those moments. I'm celebrating him on Father's Day, on his birthday, on holidays, everything. Instead of shrinking down, I'm going to live bigger and bolder in his honor. I'm going to make decisions where I normally be like, I'm not going to do that. I'm saying, no, I'm going to make Dad proud, and I'm going to live bigger and bolder in this moment than I would without him. So do I have sad days? Of course I do. And it hits me sometimes out of nowhere. I was on a plane, and there was a man that looked very similar to my dad, and he was sitting behind me. And this guy must have thought I was a total weirdo, because I kept turning around on the plane, and I just wanted to look at him because he reminded me of my dad. And I almost wanted to go up to him and just be like, can I just hug you, because you remind me so much of my dad. And I eventually was like, stop looking at this guy. And I remember he was super nice, and he was like, oh, where are you going? I like your red hair or something. And we started talking. Even his personality reminded me of my dad. And I was like, oh, please don't cry on the plane, Kandee. This is so embarrassing. Or the man smelled like my dad. And I just remember sitting there, just like tears running down my face, like, this smells like my dad's here and he's not here. Those moments, you're going to have those. You're going to have those in this life. There's going to be lots of moments where I wish my dad was there, and I'm going to keep crying, and I'm going to keep missing him. I wouldn't not be human. You would not be human if you didn't do that. You know, that is just part of life and part of your emotions. And until I see my dad in heaven again, and I know his arms are going to be open to hug me and welcome me there, he's not going to be on this earth, and this life is not going to be the same. And that is what you get used to. That is what time gets you used to. It gets used to saying, I'm getting used to the new normal. This is the new normal of me not having my dad. It was really hard for me to say my dad died, at first. I still just like to say my dad moved to heaven. He relocated. And I remember somebody told me right after my dad died, it was somebody on Facebook, and they said, God picks his flowers for heaven when they're at their most beautiful in bloom on earth. Because I was like, my dad wasn't ready to go, I know maybe when I'm old, I'm like, I'm tired of pooping in my pants and all of these things and not being able to walk. Like, I just want to die. I want to be in heaven. My dad was still young and had so much life left in him. And there's things on this earth that just aren't fair. This world is not perfect. This is not where we're meant to be. And that's why I love that song where it says, we are not home yet. This life is not our home. I believe my home is in heaven. And thankfully, and thank goodness, because this life is hard, and it's full of hurt and full of pain and disease and sickness and things that aren't fair and just things that are unjust and things that don't make sense. And I cannot wait to be in heaven where everything is beyond perfect. There is no hurt. There is no heartache. That is what I look forward to. I remember my grandma, my dad's mom, she always used to say, life is short and then you die. And then life is short and then you get to die. And my grandma's also in heaven with my dad. And I know that one day, even when these days seem hard or painful, I think of the things that my dad would say and encourage me. And I want you guys to do that too. So if you've lost a loved one, whether it's a little child, or it's a pet, or it's a parent, or brother, sister, husband, fiance, cousin, anything like that, I want you to know that you celebrate their memory. Live bigger in their honor the rest of this life. You don't have to forget them. They can be a part of you all of the time. You know, my dad is in my heart all the time. He will never go anywhere. And I will be living bigger and bolder in his honor until the very last breath of me. Just choose to live bigger and bolder for them. And my dad's with me every day in my heart and my thoughts. And I hope this encourages you guys a little bit to know that you're not alone in this. I'm doing better. It's 3 years later. I still miss my dad. But I'm still here, you know, and I can laugh and I can smile. And a lot of times I would watch like comedy things on YouTube at night when I couldn't sleep and I was just tired of crying. And I would sit there and I would watch these. I watched Dane Cook talk about when his parents died, and I would just watch those because I just needed a break from crying. And just do those things. You need to take care of yourself. You need to let yourself grieve. Don't skip over it. Don't pass over it. You need to feel those emotions. You need to go through that, or it's going to stay bottled up and affect you later. And if you're still crying and grieving and sad next year, 5 years, 10 years, that's okay. That's normal and that's real. And if you didn't, you would be like a robot and not a human being with a heart. Just keep going and don't let yourself be ruined, because the person you love would want you to spend the rest of the years of your life being happy and joyful and living bigger and bolder in their honor. So I hope you do that. Please know that if you're going through sadness, I'm sending you so much love and hug from my heart, because I know how it is. You will be strong through this, and you will live as powerfully and amazing as you can for them. And know that I'm still here. I'm sending you so much hugs and love. I pray God just wraps his heavenly comfort and love around your heart like a big comfort blanket, and fills you with hope and peace and joy and so much love. So huge love and hugs from my heart to yours. It has been 3 years now since my dad's been gone, and it feels like 20 sometimes. I'm afraid I'm going to forget what his voice sounds like, or what, just all those kinds of things. And just know I love you guys, and you're not alone. And if you know somebody that needs to see this, that's lost a loved one, please feel free to share it, and I hope it helps them too. I promise you it'll be a much more cheerful topic in my next video. I love you guys, and I'll see you in the next way more happy video. Bye.
I'm just so blessed, honey, and I just love you so much. And I'll talk to you later. Bye for now. You're doing such a good job. So proud of you. I love you. Bye for now, babe. Love you to the max. Have a great and blessed day. Bye for now. I sure love you. You don't know how much I'm proud of you, babe. I'll talk to you later. How do you like looking scruffy? Pretty scruffy, huh? Bye, sweetie. And I just want to tell you how much I love you. You don't know, babe. I'm so proud of you. I love you, Ken. I'll see you later. Sorry I didn't get to make it today. Bye for now.